Hello, welcome to the Kansas Speech Language Hearing Association podcast. I am here with Dr. Ana Paula Mumy, and she is the co-founder and president of Spero Stuttering. She's a program director and associate professor at East Texas Baptist University. And even though she's in Texas now, she's remained a member of the Kansas Speech Language Hearing Association. We are so excited to learn more about your organization, Spero Stuttering, today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So we're just going to start off by asking some questions and have a conversation about your organization and hopefully spread the word about this great thing you're doing. So my first question for you is, how did Spero begin?
As I was thinking about meeting with you today, I kind of have my general, spiel of how I usually begin by telling my story and talking about just the catalyst of change for me. But as I was thinking about Spero, so of course we're a nonprofit that is geared towards advocacy and help for people who stutter. But I thought I would explain it in a different way, just thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about gaps and bridges in terms of what our focus is and how and why we began. So I co-founded it with my sister who has twin boys who stutter. And then my son went through a period of stuttering. So that was the catalyst. But in terms of really gaps, there were the primary gap, of course, was just through my own experience of realizing how ill-equipped I was to help my son when he went through his period of stuttering. We realized how little we get in grad school. Some students might get one course, some might get a half course, some might not get a course at all, right? And then even for those that have a course in stuttering, they may not ever have a clinical experience in grad school, right? Where they, in a practicum or even at their, externship or whatever. So we just know that we come out, even though we have this certificate of clinical competence, we don't really have a whole lot of confidence or competence in working with people who stutter. So that was a gap that was so evident in my own life as an SLP and working with my son and just realizing that I didn't even know where to begin really when we went through that phase. And then my sister, because of her experience with therapy that her sons had received in the schools and just realizing that a lot of the school-based SLPs were extremely nice and well-meaning and they wanted to do right, but they didn't quite know how to get there, right? And so we thought we have to do something about this, right? We've got to bridge this gap somehow. And so recently I was reading, one of my mentors who I feel funny sometimes saying that, David Shapiro, because I've never actually met him in person. I've only communicated with him via the cloud. And so, but I still feel like he's such a mentor to me, just through our interactions, but also through some of his work and his writings. And they just really resonate with me. And some of his writings are just timeless, I feel like. And there was something that I read recently where he talked about building bridges throughout life to reflect one's passion, one's purpose, and one's profession. And I feel like that explains so clearly or captures the heart of Spero in the sense of, like, for me, it's this beautiful intersection of passion, purpose, and profession, just, like the merging of all, right? And so thinking about a bridge when it came to SLPs, we felt like we need to help SLPs, one, realize their need for more, right? Their need for more training, but then giving them the tools to be able to get there, right? So we have stipends. That was probably the biggest thing that we pushed early on was we have money, we have funding for SLPs to be able to get more training, to be able to go to a conference, to be able to do webinars or whatever it is that they might need. in order to feel more confident and well equipped, for this task, right, of just working with the children that they are faced with on their caseloads. And so that was the first thing that we promoted. And then the other, in terms of a bridge for SLPs, was the Ally of Stuttering program. So we came up with this seal, which is really just a designation that sets SLPs apart. And you have to get so many hours of continuing ed, and you have to show some involvement in the stuttering community. And it just shows that you're invested in the stuttering community, that you're not just providing treatment, but that you're, with people who stutter, right? And learning their stories, hearing their stories, and understanding the stuttering experience on a deeper level. And so that designation then recognizes the SLP, but then also allows us then to build another bridge in terms of connecting those SLPs with families who are looking for SLPs who are more knowledgeable and have more experience working with stuttering. So, which kind of leads to the other gap, which is caregivers don't understand the difference, right? A parent who's looking for an SLP doesn't know the difference between the SLP down the street versus the SLP who, has more of an understanding about stuttering. So we wanted to connect, families with SLPs. And there's, of course, a network of stuttering specialists that's also available. But sometimes if you don't have a specialist that's near you or who is in your state or whatever, then there's, all these barriers. And so we wanted to bridge that gap, right? And help families have more options of SLPs who maybe aren't specialists. So they're generalists, but who have a passion for working with stuttering, or who specialize in stuttering in some way, even though they don't have the specialty designation. And then, so those are kind of our big two areas of focus, was the funding piece, and then the Ally of Stuttering program. I say program, I mean, I don't know what you call it, but so, and then we realized, but wait, it's not just the SLPs that need to be equipped. We need to really hit the grad students, right? And giving them opportunities. And I think you can speak to that a little bit, right? Which you're welcome to chime in if you want to, about just your own, how, as a grad student, when you were going through your own training, like what was it like for you?
Absolutely. I was going to say that because of you, you bridged a lot of gaps for me. I had taken a stuttering course, my very first class at KU. And after that, without meeting you, I don't think I would have had any more experience in working with persons who stutter. So I felt so lucky when I got an email from you, my supervisor and mentor now, but it said something about, hey, I have this really great opportunity about Camp Shoutout, and a graduate student clinician can accompany me or a couple, and you can learn all about how to provide person-centered therapy for people who stutter. And I think back on my graduate school experience, and I think that was one of the most memorable and meaningful experiences that I had. And that's because of you. And that's before Spero even existed. So I'm thankful that you were providing opportunities for grad students even before the organization started. And so it's so exciting that you planted your seed even earlier, and you've helped so many graduate students learn the right way to approach stuttering therapy. But anyways, I think that lots of grad students can relate to not feeling prepared to provide that type of service for a person who stutters. So this organization is totally bridging gaps. So great job.
Thank you. So for grad students, we have a couple of different things. So we have, of course, funding. So we have scholarships for them to be able to attend a stuttering conference. So for example, going to a friend's, either the annual convention, or sometimes they have the one-day regional conferences. So that's a great opportunity to meet people who stutter, to meet parents, to meet children, teens, and all of that. And then we also have a scholarship that's more geared towards research. So if you have an interest, and it can be at the undergraduate level, it can be doctoral level, but if you have research that's clinically applicable, right? That is going to be helpful for us, as clinicians. And it can be either in the area of stuttering or cluttering. But anyway, so we have some opportunities there. But the most recent, which has been really successful, and we just are so grateful for how well it's been received, is our STEER Circle for graduate students, which is essentially an enrichment program. And graduate students commit to 6 Zoom sessions. I'm co-facilitating with Stephen Motes, who is at Baylor, and he's also the president of Stutterfly, which is another organization that is focused on stuttering. And we bring in different guest speakers who share on different topics. And we had a super amazing response. We have about 24 students right now that are in this cohort from all over the US, and I get emails all the time from other grad students who are like, when can I join next? Or can I, or is it too late for me to join, this one? And so anyway, so we have that, and I think we'll continue to run it as long as we have the capacity, to do so. And that's just been really good. And they also get a stipend at the end just for their participation, just as an incentive. Say, hey, we believe in what you're doing, and keep going, right? Keep learning and growing in this area that is so needed. So that's another way. And then we have a book club also, which you participated in. With just a wonderful collaboration with Chris Anderson, who wrote the book Every Waking Moment, about his experience with stuttering. And so we've had, again, just an overwhelming response from the SLP community in terms of interest. And each of our groups, we're in our 4th iteration of the book club right now, which is exciting. And always just have, just amazing group of individuals who are coming from all different walks. So some are new clinicians, some are veteran clinicians, some are generalists, some are specialists. And we just have amazing discussions around his book, but then having him there, right? Just to be able to impart more and to really, ask questions and dive deep. And that's been really awesome. So anything you want to say about the book club?
Well, I was going to say, I feel like I could do that book club over and over again, and I could reread the book and glean new information each time I read it. And each time I get to listen to these conversations that people are having surrounding stuttering. I would highly recommend the book club for any clinician or grad student. And the STEER Circle too sounds really awesome. But gosh, that was a life-altering CEU for me. I just enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is we were able to, through a partnership with SLP Nerdcast, we were able to provide CEUs. So you get 20 hours of professional development, through the book club, which is amazing. And so it's just been, I feel like we've had so many meaningful collaborations throughout the process, which I didn't even mention. Another wonderful collaboration was with My Speech, which they host our directory. So we have now an online directory where people can search for Ally of Stuttering SLPs. They can search by state where, the different individuals are licensed. They can search by name. And so it just makes, again, that access more, or just, more easily accessible for families and individuals who are looking for a therapist that is going to be the right fit for them.
Absolutely. Gosh, I would love to see collaboration with schools too, because I feel like being able to spread the word about Allies of Stuttering and having that greater sense of knowledge around the affliction is just, I think that could really change a lot of lives everywhere. So you've done such an amazing job with all of those collaborations, and it's been so much fun to watch your organization grow.
Thank you.
I feel like you've answered a couple of my next questions already. So I want to ask you this one, and I want to know what your goals are for your organization in the next 5 years or 2 years, however many years.
So I would say, the first one, of course, is just to continue to grow our network of Ally of Stuttering SLPs. we have grown significantly. We have more than 100 now who have that
Wow.
designation, which I think is exciting. We've only been around for about 3.5 years. And so just to have, that level of just involvement in people who are really, I would say, coming alongside us and, rallying behind us and just walking with us, through this. And then just being able to communicate better, and like you said, like being able to reach schools and school-based SLPs who are in the trenches, who really need that support and guidance, and then having maybe also um, just resources for teachers, things that are going to be helpful for them as they encounter stuttering. Because I think the thing that I tell kids that I work with and even teens, they just make assumptions, or they think, oh, they're an adult, they know about stuttering, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, they understand what I'm going through, and they don't really know, like, no, these adults in your life probably know nothing about stuttering and probably have lots of misconceptions, and they probably have heard all the myths, and they
Mm-hmm.
probably hold to a lot of them, and so it's just this little, inch by inch, like being able to educate more and raise awareness and help the general public really get it, right? Because I feel like um, we do a great job of reaching our community, right? And
Of
the
course.
network that we already have built, and the people that I think already know, right? And they're already on our side, kind of thing, right? But then just really finding, like, what are the ends to parent groups? What are the ends to teacher groups? What are the ends, so that we can really raise awareness and educate and advocate effectively across, like going beyond just our little, bubble. So that would be, I think, a goal of just, finding those ends, finding more ways to, build bridges in those areas. And then, of course, as an organization who is a nonprofit, um, all of us are volunteers, and we need funds, right? Like, for us to be able to continue to say we have funds, we need funds. And so fundraising efforts, that's the hardest thing to do, is um, find donors and organizations and grants, and just um, people who believe in our mission, which we have had, which, so I have to say, we've had we've been fortunate to apply for a few grants and obtain nothing huge by any means, but just enough that it's allowed us to sustain and to really continue doing what we've set out to do. We've never had to turn away an SLP who's requested a seat stipend. We've never had to turn away a student, who has requested a scholarship. And so we just feel really good about where we are, but we need more. We need to, that sustainability piece. So fundraising is always on our minds. How do we, and then communicating our mission, well, so that people are moved by what we're doing, and can help us, get there. Um, Other goals.
Well, I want to plug one thing for you because you didn't specifically mention it, but every year you have a 5K Strides for Stuttering.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yes.
I think that we definitely need to mention that and spread the word, because who doesn't like to go for a walk or run?
Of course. Thank you. Yeah. How did that like escape my mind? Yes. Every August, we hold a virtual 5K, which basically just means that you're not running virtually. You're walking or running. The first time I heard that, I'm like, virtual 5K. What does that mean?
Hmm.
So you can essentially walk or run anywhere in the United States or elsewhere. We had a couple of international participants last year, which was
Oh
exciting.
my, wow.
Yeah. So, but of course, our main audience is here in the US, but yeah, so you can join us. We have opportunities for organizations or businesses to sponsor us. So that's one way that money comes in through the fundraiser. And then of course, we have, a registration fee to help us get a little bit. But we do some fun things, like we have t-shirts, and we have done a medal or stickers or just something else sometimes to just say thank you and to recognize all those who have participated. But we had over 80 people last year who joined us, and I would love to see entire like grad programs just make a plan to do it together, and have just students and faculty and staff join us. So that would be awesome to see this year. So we're trying to get the word out, just so that more people learn about it. But it is,
Perhaps an extra credit opportunity for a
hey.
class in the summer.
But anyway, we just that's always a lot of fun, because one thing that we've done is have people submit pictures of them wherever they are doing the 5K, and it's just a really neat way to build community and just to feel connected, and that's the thing that I love about our organization, is that I feel like I know so many people now, through the organization, and just have had just the opportunity to meet hundreds of people. And the other thing I love about the Ally of Stuttering directory is that because we spotlight each person who becomes an ally, then I get to hear a little bit about their story, right? And so even though I don't know them, I feel like I get a glimpse into who they are and what motivated them to start working with people who stutter, and why the Ally of Stuttering seal is important to them. And so I feel like I just get to know people just more, and just the community building that happens there, and the networking. And even, just the other day, somebody emailed me and they were wanting to know if I knew any bilingual SLP in Texas. And they, of course, were reaching out to me because I speak Spanish. But unfortunately, I'm not taking clients right now. And I said, well, let me do some looking. And anyway, long story short, like, there was an ally who doesn't live in Texas, but who's licensed here, who speaks Spanish, and who was willing to talk to the family. And so, like, we were able to, again, build that bridge, right? So that family had access, whereas they didn't have it before, so just those kinds of connections just are so meaningful to me, because I feel like, that's what we're about. We're wanting to build bridges and help, people who stutter and their families and SLPs, and just the community, overall. So
I feel like there's nothing better than feeling like you can connect someone to exactly what they need, even if you can't provide it. Hey, I do know exactly where to go for this exact purpose, and I can help you that way. And that's clearly what's happening with Spero.
yeah, it's exciting.
So I have one last question for you.
Uh-huh.
And I'm wondering, and you've mentioned a couple of fundraising causes, but I'd also like to know more about how the speech language pathology community can support Spero stuttering.
Yeah, I would say probably one of the easiest ways is just to share with other SLPs that we have funding, right? Like, we have funding for SLPs who are wanting to grow in this area, because that's one of the things that we just realize, especially for school-based SLPs, sometimes because you don't have that many individuals on your caseload who stutter,
Mm-hmm.
you might not prioritize stuttering as an area of professional growth, right? You might not have enough funding for just to carve out, time and money for that, right? And so we want people to know, like, we have funding for SLPs who want to learn, right? And so just sharing, we have a flyer that you can download off of our website that shares about our Ally of Stuttering requirements. What is that about? We have a flyer for colleges and universities. We have flyers that talk about the different scholarships, so there's just sharing that information, because sometimes for example, in a conference, somebody will come up to me, they're like, oh, I didn't know that you did this. Like, oh my gosh, and sometimes you think, oh, but we've been around for so long, 23 years. And they never heard, so it's just spread the word, let people know, tag SLPs, email them the flyer, just let people know. That's one. And then, of course, helping us with the fundraisers that we do. So being a part of the 5K, that's an easy, fun way to support us, or if you feel inclined, just to give throughout the year, or, we do other, special times of asks like Giving Tuesday, or, just things like that. And then I would say for professors, instructors, to really take advantage of, the book club, participating in something like that, or some of our other offerings. We try to do at least one offering per semester, one that is more geared towards at the ally network of SLPs, and then one that is more geared toward the general public. For example, we did an authors roundtable one semester, and so we invited different authors who had written books about stuttering, and that was a great, wonderful conversation, and just we had really good discussion, and so becoming involved in those things, and then just sharing about it, because that's how people, how we grow, and just by sharing. So sharing is caring.
That's right. I think that we can definitely help with that. So one way we can help with that is by using our resource page, which we'll link in our little podcast description. So I believe we'll be posting this on YouTube for KSHA YouTube page, and also Spero has a YouTube page, right?
We do.
Yes. Okay. So in that resource page, we can put your website, and we can have all of your social media accounts. And I was also wondering, before we end this podcast, would you be able to tell us the specific requirements to become an ally of stuttering? I know that we'll include it, but I was just, people might want to hear about it.
Yeah. So it's 10 hours of continuing ed, and it doesn't have to be necessarily ASHA CEUs. It can just be recognized, professional development opportunity that has a certificate. So you just complete the training, you submit the verification via certificates of participation, or your ASHA transcript, or whatever you have to show that confirmation. And then you also have to have involvement in the stuttering community. So it can be going to a conference, a stuttering conference. So the NSA, Friends, we have the World Congress on Stuttering and Cluttering is coming up in May. So something like that, or it could also be participation in support groups, or it could be, other events, as long as it's in the stuttering community with people who stutter. Or sometimes, like, professors will ask me, I have guest speakers who come into my class, and I'm like, absolutely, because you are learning their stories, and you are promoting that involvement. So it can look different ways. So there's not like one definitive, like you have to do X, right? So we just give people leeway. The heart of it is that you are actively involved in the stuttering community. So at some level. So giving me verification of that. So it might be, a flyer or whatever. It can look different ways. And then we do ask for ASHA Cs and then licensure if your state requires it. So CFs, aren't yet eligible, but they become eligible once they get their Cs. And then to maintain it, you just have to get 5 hours per year. So the 10 hours is within the last 2 years, and then the involvement as well. And then just each subsequent year is just adding on another, 5 hours of continuing ed. So it's just showing that you are prioritizing stuttering in your professional journey.
Absolutely. The continued commitment is really important, because we're learning so much new information every single year. So that's so important. Okay. I think that we have all of our questions answered, and now we just need to give everyone the information on our resource page, and I'm excited to see how we can spread the word about Spero.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for coming. It was so much fun to catch up and have a conversation with you about your organization, and I'm thankful for your continued mentorship. So thank you for contributing to KSHA.
Thank you.